So it's Friday, it's you hangout time, and today I am joined with Jeavon from Crumpled Dog. How you doing, Jeavon?
I'm good, thanks, Warren. Good day today. How about you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. As always, at this point of the introductions, we always go through kind of the background of how you got involved with Umbraco. So yeah, how did you get involved with Umbraco, Jeavon?
Well, I found Umbraco, I don't know how many years ago, by doing a search, as most of us do on Google, for a XSLT-based content management system.
XSLT-based?
Yeah, XSLT-based and also multilingual. And somehow I found Umbraco 3. I actually needed to develop a website using Welsh as a language as well as English. And also, yeah, I've already used XSLT quite a lot for content management. So that's what I found when I came across it, and somehow got it running eventually. With some help from some very helpful people on Yahoo group, if I remember rightly, because it wasn't a straightforward.
Exactly. So you've been using it for a long time. You've obviously just by saying that you've been using the Yahoo group. So obviously before Umbraco there was a forum, and before the forum there was the Yahoo kind of user groups. So it shows your experience with Umbraco.
Yeah.
Long-time user.
Yeah, I guess I didn't use it. That was the only site I ever developed on V3, and then next time I came back to it, it was on V4, which obviously stuff had changed and it was a lot easier.
Yeah, so obviously we had things like master pages, a nicer installer, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of pretend made-up templates. And stuff like that.
Yeah. So obviously you're quite relatively well known in the community now. You do obviously a lot of speaking at different events, UK Festival, Belgium Festival, and obviously up and down the country. So what are you going to kind of show us today? So
today we're going to have a really deep dive and sort of try and cover all aspects of the V7.1 image cropper, because a lot of people ask questions and get confused, and there's different ways of doing it. What does it do? So I'm going to try and go through and make the conclusive sort of resource or demo for all the different ways you can use the image cropper. I'm also going to sort of go through and how you might be able to use that with Slimmage.js to actually sort of make a responsive image site with it. And just have a look at the different aspects, and then I've got a little package to demo at the end called Slimsy, which makes stuff even easier, especially if you're sort of a front-end dev and you don't have Visual Studio and things like that. So you can achieve all of the stuff really, really simply with that. So
fantastic.
That
sounds awesome. So obviously, just a bit background that for people who don't know, Jeavon did quite a key contribution to the, what was it, 7.1? Was this
7.1? Yeah.
So you kind of done a core contribution to the core, obviously, with this image cropping tool.
Yeah. Yes.
Ever since it's now part of the lovely core, and along with was it James South? Is it?
Yeah. So with 7.1 image processor by James South was bundled in. That was primarily to support the image cropper, but obviously it's limitless possibilities as well, because the image cropper in 7.1 just generates, just stores data about your crop.
Okay.
But we've developed sort of a helper method that will generate your image processor URL. So obviously for those to actually render on your site, image processor does all the hard work, as we'll see.
Yeah, fantastic. So
let's have a look, shall we?
Yeah, exactly. Let's jump over to screen share.
Okay. If I could find it. There it is. Desktop. So hopefully you can see the starter kit. Can you see the starter kit?
I certainly can.
Okay, excellent. So all of the demos are going to use the starter kit, the tech starter kit. So it's just the install through Umbraco, just enter username, password, etc. And you end up with this starter kit here, which is the point I'm at with this installation. So I've just installed it. I'll log in. So the thing that probably gets asked the most is, how do I actually use the image cropper? And also, can I use the image cropper on content and media? The answer to that is yes, you can use it on content and media, and I'm going to first of all just show you how you use it on content and then convert that to using it with media, so it can cover both bases.
Yep.
So the first thing to do to get started with the image cropper is to create the data type, because it doesn't come, Umbraco doesn't come with the data type for the image cropper. So we're going to create.
So it has the property editor pre-installed,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't have the data type generated for you.
Right, exactly. So you can, if you have lots of different predefined crops, you might have a few different croppers, data types. We're just going to create one originally called cropper.
Yeah.
We're going to add a predefined crop. So this is obviously setting the dimensions that the content editor will choose from. I'm going to call it home, and we're going to use it to replace these 4 images across here. So these images are associated to the 4 pages in the back office. So they're sort of like links they're sort of like an alternate navigation to featured pages.
Yeah.
So they are by default they're 270 by 161.
I think you've done this demo a few times. You know that crop size too well.
Yeah, I still have to write it down. It's the one I always forget. So there's a funny size. Okay, so now we've got our cropper as a data type. We just have a look at these pages. So that's these 4 pages here. We'll see that the image is an upload and it's in the content. So what we're going to do is going to replace this upload with the image cropper.
Okay.
And then get it outputting the images at the correct size from our predefined crop. So we're going to go to our document type, which is text page. And we're going to replace the upload with the cropper. We're going to save. The smart thing about this is it won't actually lose the images that were uploaded as the upload type.
Yeah,
so
that's really nice.
But in order for the cropper to actually replace just a string with its JSON data, we need to save them. So you could obviously publish everything under home to save them all. That would do as well. As there are only 4, I'm just going to save them one by one. Although actually, because the helper is quite smart, it will still output the images even if you don't do this. It will just won't have any data because it won't know where this point is. But it will actually not break your site if you've got a lot of media and you're adding this retrospectively. It will, and you use the helper we're going to use in a minute. It will still work correctly. We're going to save them. Maybe we'll leave that one.
So that blue dot, just for people who don't know, you're kind of betting the focal point for the crop.
Yeah, so exactly. So that sets a focal point. But with our predefined crop, let's see if one of the ones is a bit more obvious. We'll replace these images in a minute anyway. But with this predefined one, we can actually zoom in. So if we really wanted a specific part of the image.
Yep.
And then save that. If we don't do that, we do that by clicking on our predefined crop here.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, the predefined crop will automatically also work out where to be from the blue dot.
Okay.
So we left the about one. Let's see if that works without actually resaving the about one. So we've replaced that. So now we need to. What if we have a look at our site? Our images, except for the last one, should all sort of be broken.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're now going to need to replace the code, or the code in the Razor file that's outputting these images. So I'm just going to come into our partial view. This is in a partial view called features.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can see currently it was getting feature.image. So this property now just contains JSON data from the image cropper. So obviously it can't actually get the URL from it. So we're going to add in a little code block, and we're going to put in an if just to check that we have a image.
Mm-hmm.
So feature.hasValue, and the property is called image. So, image. Another one. That'll make sure that we've got an image on there. And then we're going to get our to copy that, cut that into there. Oops. Okay. So what we need to do here, instead of .image, we need to use the helper method, which is get crop URL.
Okay. So this is just an extension method on published content?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's an extension method on means content or media, or members actually now as well. So any of those.
Yeah.
And because our property is called image, we need to tell it that our property is called image, and that we want the home crop.
Okay, so that kind of cropper data type could have multiple different various crops to save against. So you're just saying I want the home crop from this image property.
Yeah. So if I've got those around the right way, and I haven't missed anything, it might work. Yeah, it does.
First time, fantastic.
There we go. So you can see, even though this one is going through, actually I must have the height slightly wrong by the look of it. Even though this one is actually going through the get crop URL, it's not breaking, even though it hasn't actually got the cropper on it yet.
Okay. Yep.
This is because the get crop method also can be used on a string, so you can actually do crops from images that aren't content managed or are in upload. You can still use it to generate image processor URLs as well. So it's quite nice, as I said, if you've got a lot of media and you're wanting to add this in, you haven't necessarily got to go through and set them all. It will still work.
No, that's fantastic.
Out of the box. So yeah, that's good. Something else I should say is obviously this starter kit is using the dynamic iPublish content, that is current page.
Okay, yeah.
So this extension method works with dynamics, which is to get crop URL. However, we'll see in a minute there's a version of it that will only work with the typed model because it's got a lot of optional parameters and things like that, and dynamics can't figure all that out. But we'll see how to work with that in a second. So that's the cropper working with content.
Yeah.
But if we wanted these images to be media rather than content, because maybe we're going to reuse them in several different places in the site at different sizes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just have a look at how we do this with media. So if we have a look at the media type image, then we do the same thing here. We change the Umbraco file, which is an upload field, to the cropper. So this is going to change it for any type image in the media section. Then we're going to go and create some media. We're going to need a folder for that. Some media. And then we need to get some sample images. So I've got some images of all different sizes.
Yep.
So we can see how this is working. So we drop those in there.
There's some fantastic photos there.
Yeah, some of them worked, some of them didn't, interestingly. Let's try the ones that didn't work again. Yeah, there's one of you here somewhere. There it is.
Oh dear.
There we go.
It's never good.
One more. Yeah. I don't know. That one, no, we've got that one. That one. There we go. So we got 4 images for the 4 pages there. Obviously courtesy of Mr. Douglas Robar.
Of course.
So let's try and switch these out. So what we need to do is replace our picker, which was an upload on our text page, with a media picker instead, so we can choose from media.
Right, okay.
So whereas we had this as a cropper when we went on content, we now want it to be a media picker. Obviously this is pretty standard. So if we go back to our content and have a look at our 4. So obviously we replaced the upload, so we need to now choose.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have that one. For that page. That one. that page. That one. Okay. So obviously we now need to update our code to actually fetch from media rather than just getting directly from content. So if we come back to the partial view, so we need to get, whereas the image before contained the cropper, we now need to use the Umbraco helper to get the image, to get the media item.
Yep.
So we're going to call this feature image Umbraco.media, and we're going to pass it in feature.image. So that's going to contain the ID of our media item.
Yep.
And so instead of feature, we now need to get feature image. But our property isn't called image anymore. It's actually called Umbraco file. But actually, we don't actually need to. If our, which is a convention, Umbraco file is a convention that's been around for a long time for sort of media.
Yep.
And the get crop URL by default will know Umbraco file. So if our property is called that, we don't actually need to tell it. It will be that already.
Okay.
So we can save that and see if it's working. Yay.
Excellent.
Obviously we didn't select any predefined crops and we didn't move the interest point, so
Yep.
they're not quite right. So we can just do one of those. That was okay. Like Jan. So we can see the little update down there. It's updated.
Yep.
Say if on this one, let's do a predefined one if we just wanted your head. Like that.
So this is overriding the blue dot because
That's gonna, yeah. So if you had a use case where you wanted a crop to be a sort of, one crop to be the top left and one crop to be the top right, then this is obviously very useful.
Yeah.
You have to have that facility to do that. So let's save that. Let's check what's going on over here. There we go.
Excellent.
So that's working well. And now, next thing is one of the things that people, particularly with a lot of media, really like or have wanted to do for a long time, is to not actually even ever need these predefined crops. And is to be able to specify your crop dimensions in the Razor code.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my data type. And obviously that means you can have a limitless number of crops. So you might have one page that's got them at different dimensions, somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it can just be purely defined in that way. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to just go and remove them all by saving. Though it doesn't actually matter. Don't really need to do that. Or you need to move that dot up to your head. Okay, so this is now going to be programmatic cropping.
Okay.
And it's purely going to use the interest point to generate the crops. So for this, we need to use the typed model on the media only. We don't have to convert everything else, but because we need to be able to access be able to pass in width and height, we need to use the typed media instead of media. So this will return a typed object for the media item.
Okay.
But because feature.image is dynamic, we just need to tell it that this isn't int by casting it. So now here, instead of the alias, we can just specify the sizes as parameters. So we can say 270 by 161.
So I presume if we was to do this in Visual Studio or something similar, we would get autocomplete and some suggestions in terms of what those parameters could be. Yeah,
we're going to go in there in a minute anyway to have when we started doing some more extra parameters in here. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, there'll be loads of other stuff as well. Let's see if that works. I've forgotten something. No, so far so good. So yeah, so that's working really well. So now we can, any Razor file we like, we can have 10 different sizes wherever we want, and our content editor, literally all they ever need to do is just move the blue dot. They don't have to ever do anything more than that.
Yeah, just set the main focus point, and everything else will be done programmatically around that crop or focus point.
Exactly, yeah. So obviously, if you do have a use case where you want to have the top left and top right, then you're going to need a predefined crop to deal with that. But that's not generally what people are doing. So
no, exactly.
Most of the time, this is going to be ideal. Okay, so I was going to add. Let's do that in Visual Studio. So if we have a look in Visual Studio, yes, we want to reload it. So this is the same partial view we were just editing in Umbraco. So yeah, as you say here, you'll see this is why Dynamics can't handle this. Dynamics does some magic to be able to use these extension methods. And it basically looks at the number of parameters and matches them. So it can only do a certain number. So that's pretty much the sort of basics of what you want to use the image cropper for. So we're going to look at a couple of more advanced things, and also how we can implement some sort of responsive imaging using Slimmage.js. And let's just have a look at that. So Slimmage.js is a very small JavaScript file that manipulates the width parameter in the query string of your images. So if we have a look at this here. In fact, if we open this. So this is the image processor part that's going on in the background.
Okay.
So these strings here are being generated by the getCrop URL method, which is looking at the data in your image cropper and then generates a string so the image processor can generate these. So you can pump in any width and height you like here, and it will send you back an image. So obviously the height's 161, but if I put in 500, we should get some warped image, or just cut. Yeah, it's going to be cropped, of course, because I said it's told it to crop. So yeah, you can just adjust these parameters how we like. So what Slimmage does is once the page has been rendered, it starts to mess with this parameter here, the width parameter, and it does that to adjust based off the current display area of the image. So if you've got a responsive layout, like this one is, if we make this really small, maybe not quite that small. So this is actually a bigger image than it was before. So Slimmage will have worked out that the image size is bigger and actually say, I need a bigger image from the server really to display because this is going to be pixelated. So it will adjust that width parameter to ask image processor to generate a new image. In addition to that, it also looks at the device pixel density.
Yeah.
So if you're on an iPad or an iPhone, it will produce retina quality images, assuming the source material is good enough.
Okay, fantastic.
So it does two really good things. So let's have a look at how we go about doing that. Back up there. Okay, so it's, yeah, as I say, you can get it from GitHub. It's a really, really small JavaScript file. In addition, what it does is you need to replace your image tags with no script tags, which it then processes or you need to wrap them. You need to wrap them in no script tags. It sort of finds them and replaces them as it needs to. But there's a really handy NuGet package, which is called Slim Response. And we're just going to install that. And what that does is it monitors the URLs for Slimmage equals true in the image URL.
Okay.
And then it just does it for you. So you don't need to bother with any of that no script stuff. It gets done on the rendering of the page. So you can just keep your markup as you would expect it with just an image tag. So it's really, really
okay. So this is happening kind of server side or the processing. So your original HTML doesn't have that no script tag. This goes through the pipeline, finds that Slimmage image equals true or something, and then wraps it with the no script tag or whatever's needed for that JavaScript library to work.
Exactly, that's exactly what it does. It uses the HTML agility pack that's obviously in Umbraco already to do that. So it's called Imazan Slim response. So we're just going to add that. Obviously, you could manually do the no script tags if you wanted to, but this makes it really neat.
Yeah, and I would imagine there'll be a case where you forget it, or you'll just scratch your head figuring why it's not working. So this is just going to be much more helpful.
Yeah. So I've just done a build to make it copy the NuGet package into the bin folder. Make sure our site's not been destroyed by NuGet.
Hopefully not.
Let's do that. Okay, so we've got our width and our height already. What we need here is a really, really useful feature that comes from image processor, which is a ratio mode. And what this does is it means that we can say that our height will always be a ratio of our width. Because if you imagine when Slimmage is changing your width on your website, you don't want your height to be fixed, because obviously that's going to produce, all of your images are going to vary in width, but they're all going to be the same height.
Yep.
So we want it to resize the height as well, but we need that to be done by image processor. So if we put in this parameter here, ratio mode, and set it to image crop ratio mode dot height. This will be our initial height, but it will actually be represented as a ratio of our width.
Okay.
So if you imagine a browser with no JavaScript would get an image of 270 by 161. But as this changes, this will change as appropriate ratio of this. What we'll have a quick look what that does on our website onto the image processor URLs.
So is that ratio is a percentage, a decimal number?
Yeah, it's a decimal number. Let's have a quick look here. Good, NuGet didn't kill it. So if we have a look at this here now. So you can see here we've got, instead of whereas before we had height equals 161.
Yep.
We've now got height ratio equals 0.5929 blah 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 blah.
Yep.
So that means that if we just open this again, and I'm pretty sure Doug's pictures are pretty high quality. So if we change this, you can see it is still displaying exactly the same ratio of the image. So Slimmage can change this to its heart's content. We're still going to have the height is going to be appropriately scaled. So this is really, 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 really good because it means that Slimmage can just do its thing without us having to worry about the height of the image. So for something like this, it's absolutely perfect.
So if that parameter was not set, or what would be the outcome? What wouldn't work, or what would
okay, so let's have a look at that one we just did. If we just put it back a second and refresh here, so we've still got that one there with the height ratio. So we just get the URL again here. So whereas we changed the width to 600 here, so we changed the width to 600 here. There you go. See, our height,
so it's cropping it. So it's cropping the image.
Yeah, because our height's fixed 161, and it's always going to be 161 because Slimmage isn't going to change it on the front end. It's always going to be like that. So all of the images, all the response points would be the same height. In terms of what's rendered, obviously your CSS might be scaling it, so you could actually end up with something quite weird.
Okay. Yeah.
So with this, obviously, because it's the ratio of this, it's always going to be as you intended it to be.
Fantastic.
Does that make sense now?
Yeah, no, that does make sense with the visual. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Once you get it, you think, wow, that's really useful. But yeah, it takes some time. Okay. So the other thing is we need to put in the Slimmage equals true.
Okay.
There's an option in here called further options. No, we can just put in a string of anything else we want to send into the image processor URL.
So is this just like appending the query string? So further
Yeah.
options, we can just put in any more kind of query string parameters
Yeah.
that we want to do.
Yeah, it's actually, it really, we could also just do, let me just show the alternative. We could, of course, just put it here as well, outside of the get crop URL.
Okay, yeah.
The only thing is, the reason you can put it in here is sort of for neatness, because it means that this will get put in before the cache buster, which I'll show you now, and then I can explain what that is. One thing was a problem here, because I've put in Slimmage. I've told it to render these as Slimmage.js, but I haven't actually put Slimmage.js in, so I've got nothing, because I've got JavaScript on my browser, but so I'm not getting the no script, but I haven't actually put Slimmage in there. So let's just put Slimmage in there. New item. And I'll just get Slimmage from here. I really mean to edit. What? How did you put that file? Hey, did I do that in the wrong thing? Yeah, I did. Gone ahead of myself.
Yeah.
New item. So let's image in there. So we just need to add that to our master template or our layout.
Yeah, so you just make sure you reference it.
Yeah, it should always be the very first thing, the very first script, even before jQuery, that's loaded.
Is there any reason for that?
I think there's a couple of browsers that get upset if you don't. I think it's to do with the way the DOM's loaded, because obviously the images normally would have sizes, or that it would know what they are. So it just gives Slimmage the opportunity to make sure that the images are loaded in the correct size before anything else happens. So that if you're using jQuery to request the size of an image or something like that, that it's going to get it right. Yeah. So. And obviously it doesn't have any dependency on jQuery or anything like that. So hopefully we should now get our images back. Eventually.
Seems like your IIS site has fallen asleep.
Yeah.
Oh.
There we go. So we can actually see Slimmage by default will give us output to tell us that it's been busy as well.
Okay.
So this is actually working now. So if I take that back here and make it phone-like, you can actually see Slimmage is here. It's updating the images.
Okay, and you can see it's going and requesting new images from the site.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we actually make it big again, it won't re-request them, because these are now smaller than the ones it loaded for the mobile phone size. So we can see initially it was loaded at 320 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? When we took it down to phone size, it went, I need a new image here. I need one at 480. So you can see down here it made a second request to re-request all the images at 480. And as you can see, when we did that, we still had the right ratio.
Yeah, fantastic.
The ratio. So yeah, that's pretty good. The cache buster, just while we're here. So that's saying about the parameter. Got a client cache buster that comes from the helper method, which is this at the end here, R&D. So you can see the Slimmage equals true just goes before the cache buster. For various sort of caching reasons, it's sort of neater to have any parameters in the cache buster just be the very last thing.
Okay.
Which is the only reason why, it'll still work perfectly fine if you have it at the end of the string instead. Obviously, we've got the full power of image processor here as well. So if there's anything else we want to do, so if we want to sort of from image processor, if we wanted to filter our images so they all come out looking like a Polaroid, we could do that.
Okay, so anything that the image processor can do, we can just append that to the further options.
Yeah, and obviously there's a look at it here. No, there's a full reference for image processor. And its new home here. If we go to imageprocessor.web and we look at filter, for instance, we'll find all of the options there.
Okay, yeah, fantastic.
So yeah, if we just save that, then our images should all become Polaroid-like. I lost my website there. Here's some there. Oh, I think there's a new window. There we go. Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we can do anything like that. We can just get from image processor. Yeah, I think there's some other options if you wanted to just instead of actually cropping. If you just wanted to resize images, you can do that as well. Say if you wanted to image crop mode.
So these are kind of mirroring, I presume, parameters that are available are in image processing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You do an image crop mode here is a parameter in image processor.
Exactly. Yeah. So by default, obviously with the cropper, the crop mode is crop. But if we wanted to have it do, we wanted it to just resize rather than crop, we can do that too. So we could do max or something like that. So instead, so that will just tell it, instead of being mode crop, which obviously is what we want, that will just literally resize the whole image to maximum to meet those dimensions.
Okay.
Yeah, we could just try that. I don't know what the result will be. There we go. Okay. Cool. So that's pretty much sort of some advanced stuff you can do with it, and there's a lot of different things you can do there.
Yeah.
One thing I'd say is I think some of the sort of switching from dynamic to typed and things can be a bit confusing, but I think this makes it relatively simple. Just keep your media as typed if you're going to do this. However, I think obviously we use NuGet and things like that. So I was talking to Mark Stoker, and we sort of thought there must be an easier way. And also, this is a bit repetitive. If I'm doing this on my website and I'm doing these responsive images everywhere, I don't really need to be doing all these parameters all the time. So that's where we came up with this package, Slimsy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we have a quick look at that. We've got time?
Yeah, no, we've got time.
Yeah. Okay. So this package basically does everything we've just done, but it makes it really, really easy, and it installs everything for you. So it installs Slimage, it installs SlimResponse, and it adds some helper methods. It adds 2 helper methods, which is get responsive image URL, which is for what we've just been doing there, and it also adds another one for get responsive crop URL, which is for predefined crops like we did before.
Okay. Yeah.
But obviously these are all using Slimage. So I can just show you how you can do that really quickly. Start with that. So let's get rid of all these ones. Okay. So hopefully when it warms up, Why does it always go so slow when you don't want it to be slow?
Of course.
Come on.
So this is just helping us kind of reuse those parameters that you set up previously.
Yeah. The advantage, obviously, another advantage to it is that these methods work with dynamics as well, because we've made them really simple, and we've actually made the two methods for exactly that reason, because we've got get responsive URL with width and height for when you're wanting to do programmatic width and heights.
Yeah.
But obviously, also, if you've got a predefined crop, you want to do crop alias and property alias. But we couldn't have those in the same method, and because dynamics would treat them as well. They've both got two parameters, so they're the same method as far as it's concerned. So yeah, so if you're using the browser for your editing and you're a front-end developer or designer, then this is this makes it ultra simple, because you can do it all with dynamics. You can do it all in the Umbraco back office. And there we go. Hopefully we can show it, because this is really fast. Okay. Good. So this is again the starter kit. It's already been done. I've already got to the point in which I've replaced these with the media picker. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the package. There we go. This, by the way, all of this, everything we're showing requires Umbraco 713 or above, or ideally 714 now.
Okay.
So it doesn't work with anything before that. Some of the options weren't available previously. Okay, so while that's going, let's show the files. Finished yet? Still going.
Still going.
Oh, it's taking so long. Everything is going slow. I'm sure it must have finished. Oh, there we go.
There we go, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we can we know that the package has installed Slimmage and Slim Response and all of that stuff for us.
Yep.
So we're just going to put we can get from here. Yeah, we're just going to put in the Slimmage into our layout. Just make sure the JavaScript's in there. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just an extra JavaScript snippet ready to add.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, for this one, before when we were looking at Slimmage, it was giving us the output in the console. So this setting here will say don't put that output in the console.
Okay, so a bit more for production stuff.
For production, yeah, exactly. So if you want the output, you just put true in there. That. So that's going to add Slimmage in there. Okay, that's that second. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're just going to put in here the same thing. And we can do the same. I'm not going to bother doing the if. Should obviously check the value. Check the value. Check image and black media. obviously, we don't need to do the conversion or any of that because it's going to get it straight out.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to do feature image dot. I'm going to copy it. Dot get responsive image URL. Like that, and then the wonderful dimensions again.
Yeah.
And hopefully that should be it. We'll see.
So that adds the slim image query string for us, and it's just working with dynamics as opposed to typed.
Yeah. Obviously you can use them with typed as well. That's just the same. But but it works with dynamics without having to do any messing around. This computer would like to do it any slower.
Always the way when you want to do a demo.
It was going alright until now. I'm sure it'll come up eventually.
There we go, it's coming.
Okay, see if there are any images. There we go.
Yay, fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it makes it really easy, especially if you're a front-end dev. Just install the package and then, just use the methods like that.
Fantastic.
No.
So looks like there was, so that's obviously Slimsy is the package.
Yeah.
What was the other tab that you was referencing? Is that the kind of the official documentation on image cropping?
Oh, this one here?
No, the third tab along?
Oh, yes. This one here is the image cropper documentation just for the image cropper. So how the first part of the demo that we did earlier, sort of how to focal point, resizing, and sort of the base level way to use get crop URL.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's covered it. I don't know. Any questions you've got?
No, I think that's a fantastic demo. You've kind of gone from ground zero all the way through to kind of common scenarios in terms of cropping and resizing.
Yeah.
That's been fantastic.
Great.
So we've normally go through a few questions. So we've got a question from Steve Morgan. He asks, are there any risks in denial of service attacks in using this? For example, repeated requests for images in various sizing, causing the server to have to render and cache potentially thousands of images, both in server storage space and in processing.
Yeah, I mean, Slimmage itself obviously will only request images, I think, by default every 160 pixels. So it won't create thousands of requests for images at every single size. Mm-hmm. However, obviously, with any server-side image processor, that you could, in theory, request an image at every single pixel size, which would create server cache as well. I think that James has a thread about this on his GitHub.
Yeah, I was going to say this is probably more a question for James as opposed to the kind of the image cropping stuff.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find it for you. But there is, somewhere there is a discussion on the image processor GitHub about denial of service and what you can do, that type of thing. But it's something to think about. But it's obviously, it's an image processor thing, really.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously your own protection against denial of service generally.
Exactly. I think that's it for questions. Just skimming. I'll just double check, make sure we've got nothing on Twitter. Is there anything else you want to add in the meantime, whilst any other questions might come through?
Anything
is there anything else? Okay, this is one from me. Is there anything on the roadmap for Cropper? Is there anything that you would like to add or seen to be added later down the line?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot that could be done. Obviously, one thing it doesn't currently do is it doesn't save images. So the images, it just generates URLs, and I think that's something that could be a potential option, or some way it could happen, is when you create, especially predefined crops, or even if you request them programmatically or something like that, they could, in theory, save the files if you wanted it to into the file system, which is kind of what the old V4 onwards cropper did. The reason some people are particularly interested in this happening is so that they can then synchronize those to CDN.
Okay, yeah.
So if you wanted all of your crops throughout your site to be requested from the CDN, then obviously you kind of need the files to be saved. So that's one thing. I also think that it would be really good, and I know a lot of people are really keen to actually be able to use the cropper in some way in the rich text editor. So that when you're inserting an image into the RTE, that you can actually, crop or use predefined crops or some way of using the cropper.
Yeah.
In there. Another thing that would be interesting to talk about would be to actually have to be able to have. I don't know if it's specifically with media, but let me just go back to screen share a second. Screen share. Okay. So one thing that would be really interesting was when you have, it's kind of a media picker thing really, but a lot of people have been talking about, so whereby you can just pick a media item here at the moment, and then the cropping happens on the media item. Yeah. Obviously, it's not the best sort of experience. It's obviously when the cropper's in the content, it's very, very easy. So there's been quite a lot of thoughts as, can the cropper be on the media item, but be modified in the content? You see what I mean? It's kind of like having a mini media editor that is an editor in the content or something like that.
Okay.
But it would certainly be really good for user experience. Yeah.
So you've got quite a few ideas in regards to roadmap and kind of moving forward further down the line then.
Yeah, it's obviously it's limitless. Like a lot of these things are. There's an awful lot that could be done.
Yeah.
The image cropper itself that Per created, it's all in Angular, and all of the elements are reusable, so they're all directives and that type of stuff. So there's a lot of possibilities for doing more stuff with it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I think we're going to wrap up there.
Excellent.
My battery's dying, and two, we're probably coming up to close to an hour now. So, but fantastic demo. I think it's been a great demo, mainly because one, we haven't got that many questions, so it must have been a good demo because everyone's followed along. So fantastic.
Right.
I will see you, I presume, in a couple of weeks' time at Code Garden.
Absolutely, yeah. 12 days and counting, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
something. What is Code Garden tells me, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't there a site for this?
Yeah, I think there's two, isn't there?
Fantastic. Thanks for talking, Jeavon, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.